Hello and welcome all to the Manchester City Juventus postgame episode of the Turin Giants podcast, episode number 304. Obviously, now that we're a day removed, we know that City absolutely destroyed Juventus 5-2, and we will be talking about it today. And who is we? It is myself, Zach, and Frederic. How you doing, man?
Hey man, well, I've seen better times to be honest, football wise, but we're pulling through. We're pulling through.
Yeah, we still got to do the job even when they're not so fun games to cover. Well, before we jump into it, and it will be kind of abbreviated, we're gonna take a look at we're gonna kind of talk Tutor's performance and then individual player performances, and then we're gonna leave it. But before we get into that, just real quickly, pretty much all of our videos now have a video component of it. So if you're on Spotify video or YouTube, you can watch us in addition to listening if you'd like. Um, Spotify Turin Giants, YouTube at Turin Giants Official, and we are extremely active on Instagram at Turin Giants, where there's a lot of fun content. Farhad, the man himself, was at the city game, posted a lot of fun videos and stuff, and we interact with our followers and listeners there. So I think with that we can launch to Dushan and then get into the game.
Buongiorno, 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 buongiorno. Come ha detto lei, buongiorno, buongiorno.
You're staring down a 5-2 defeat, and it's sometimes hard to know where to start and what to talk about, when so many things go wrong. And so we're going to split this episode kind of into two things. We're not going to really worry about breaking down goals or phases of play, but instead just speak about the performance of the coach and then of the players. And we're going to start with Tutor. It surprised a lot of people that he started the exact same lineups, presumably our best 11, maybe less Locatelli against Alain and Wydad Casablanca. The concern was that people would be tired against City, the third game in 8 days. So maybe it was unsurprising, or should have been unsurprising, that we saw a heavily rotated team against Manchester City. And I don't know if it was ignorance, hubris, or naivety. But when you looked at the players that Tutor decided to put on the pitch against Manchester City, it really only was going to ever yield one outcome. And when armchair experts like myself and the many folks on Twitter and Reddit and Instagram and so forth who are saying the exact same thing can see it, it must be painfully obvious. From a team selection standpoint and a management of the players, it was absolutely appalling to me, Frederic. Were you as concerned after looking at the starting lineup of Wydad Casablanca? Were you as concerned as I was that City was going to end up being a potential shit show based on with regards to the team selection?
Yeah, I shared the exact same sentiments pre-game because I also had a feeling like I'm not into this World Cup thing as of yet. I'm not fully immersed or however you want to call it, but I do feel personally that it's still a World Cup. And if you're playing against Alain or Wydad or whatever, it's pretty safe to state that, the odds are in your favor prior to commencing the game. Let's be honest.
I don't think anyone's going to argue with you on that. I think that's clear. Like, Juventus should go into those games and win. Full stop.
Of course. But then you have a game against Manchester City, which is on paper one of the heavier forces in European football, which on all accounts means that this should be a game that has everything. Two tough opponents, a group win to battle for. So you'd expect our manager to visualize that as well and go into this game with a mindset of, I want to win. Doesn't matter if we lose, but at least I want to put down like a steady, solid performance. I want the players to gain confidence. I want the fans to gain confidence because all the negativity from our side is also, a bit tangible within Juventus. So this was by all accounts a game that could have helped us get a bit back on track. Not just via result, but just the overall performance, the tactics, like you mentioned, the man management. And it all fell apart fairly quickly. And I had that feeling when I saw the starting lineup. And as the game moved forward, it wasn't like we were getting the turnaround that we were hoping to see. And this to me is another point of concern. So
Y-
yeah,
y-
I'm shocked, to be honest. I'm a bit shocked.
And if you're a competitor, if you're Yildiz or if you're Colomwani, you want to play against City. You want to show them what you're made of. Obviously you want to win against Wydad Casablanca, but that's the game to play to rotate. That's the middle game against an opponent you should beat. You want to throw Kostic in there? Great. You want to start Coop Miners, Nico Gonzalez instead of over Chico? Great. Do it against Wydad Casablanca to rest your stars and starters against Man City. It doesn't also signal me a starting lineup of Kostic, who hasn't played for us in over a year. Coop Miners and Nico Gonzalez, Dusan Vlahovic especially. I mean, Coop, Kostic, and Vlahovic doesn't signal me as I'm going to win this game to put us in a better position in the next round. That is not representative of what Tutor, Elkan, and the players have been saying all about, is that they're in this tournament to win. If you're going to win, you have to go through City. You knew that from the beginning. You rotate against Wydad Casablanca and you play your main dudes against City to give you a more favorable matchup in the next round. And that clearly was not on Tudor's radar. And so I guess the question to you, Frederic, is did he go into this saying, we're not going to win anyways? It's what some followers have said, we're not going to win anyways. Who cares? 5-2, 1-0. It doesn't matter. A loss, we're going to lose anyways. Might as well rest our guys for Real. Like, do you buy that?
To me, it's the only logical explanation I can think of. I
But
don't
that
see any rationale into, well, we have that option, or we have the option that Tudor is a complete idiot, which is also a possibility.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit
And
more about him, but it sends mixed messages. We're here to win. Well, if you're going to win the tournament, you're going to have to go through teams like City, Bayern, PSG, Real Madrid. Like, what's the difference? I mean, we can and I don't have it off the top of my head, but if we had won that game, the pathway to the finals, or at least the semifinals, was relatively easy. There was nobody. Now, if we're going to get to the finals, it's a Champions League powerhouse after Champions League powerhouse. Like,
yep, yep.
that's it. And Real
It's
Madrid
fairly
is pretty depleted. I mean, their defense is Dean Huijsen, who we'll see again, and extra number 5. I mean, but still, it's Real Madrid, and the quality is unequivocal, and they've demonstrated that, unlike Juventus. So I just look, if we come in and we're like, hey, look, we're effectively a mid-table team who's going to drop into a low block against City and pray. Okay, but that's not the signal that the team and the players and Elkan have had going into this tournament. And that disagreement was it sent mixed messages to me that I didn't appreciate.
no, not at all. And the fact of the matter also, in my opinion, is that once again we're making the error of making things pretty impossible for us to achieve. We're sabotaging ourselves once again, as we did last season. And this is something that really frustrates the hell out of me because, like you said, it was a open path to the semifinals. It was a clear open path. You could have rotated easily some players in the next game. I'm not saying
Yeah.
the whole team, but you could have made a switch here and there and maybe let a few players enter the pitch come second half or whatever, and still have on paper enough quality to win that game. But he knew prior to starting this that this just wasn't gonna cut it.
Well, let's talk
So
about let's talk about why. From a tactical perspective, I know you're going to cover a lot of the player performances. So just from a tactical perspective, okay, we set up in the typical 3-4-2-1, and you're playing against Manchester City. So if you're planning your tactics, you're like, we know they're going to have the ball. Okay, so this is not one of these games where we're trying to seize possession. You're going to have, I don't know, 35, 40% possession, and you're going to try to hit on the counter. So what do you need? You need an extremely organized block. And for 5 minutes at the very beginning of this game, you saw a very tight 5-4-1. There was not a lot of distance between each of the lines to limit line breaking passes. There was a clear two lines and a dot. For 5 minutes, we were organized. And then for the next 85 minutes, there was tactical. It was devoid of tactics. There was no organization. We would try to push up, and they would welcome us. They would drop deep, spreading our lines apart, and then use deep, either line cutting balls or deep balls to their wingers, like Savinho out wide, to completely reset the position in our half, because then that guy would run down the field, and then we'd be pinned in our end. We would be baited in those types of positions. And then when we'd be pinned in, instead of having two lines of 5 and 4 with Dusan kind of standing up there, we had this wavy line of 9 players, not following runners, not organized. And that, to me, going back to Tutor, which who I'm focusing on here, is he picked this team. He picked the strategy of the team selection this tournament, and he clearly did not have the players on the pitch prepared tactically with the level of discipline and knowledge and know-how to respond to what Manchester City was going to do and has done for years. And that also concerned me about the coach, because Tutor, as much as we like him from his Juventino past and sort of his demeanor and him saving our, or at least salvaging our season, this was a clear signal of, or sign of concern. Manchester City presented nothing new. They were heavily rotated too, and yet our tactics was absolutely thrown out the window after 5 minutes, and people were just trying to tread water in river rapids and failing.
I completely agree, and I think this shouldn't be treated lightly. This case, it's not about the result. Like I said, it's about the way that the result became the result that we know now. And like you said, tactically we were nowhere. But what concerns me is that physically we weren't up there either. The only person, in my opinion, who had some physicality or some stamina for me personally was Yildiz.
Well, he came off the bench. I
Um,
mean, you can barely, I don't even know if he counts, right, for that from a
no,
physicality standpoint, because he came off the bench. I mean, we're going to talk players, but from a starting 11, was it, to me, it struck me that the Juventus spent the whole game shell shocked. Like fitness was irrelevant because they were so mentally behind what City was doing that they could never catch up to even be worried about whether they were in shape or not. I mean,
nope.
the third goal, I think it was the third goal, where Koopmeiners gets beat in a foot race. Why is Koopmeiners the last guy in our defense? He's one of our attacking midfielders. It's because the players are so confused about where they should be and what to do with City's movements that it was a mixed bag. At one point in time, I think there was it was a stoppage in play, a free kick in City's half for them. And you looked at our lineup, and we had 3 guys at the bottom of the screen. And then we had 2 guys at the top of the screen, with leaving a ginormous hole in the middle of the pitch. I mean, it's just the spacing, the knowledge, how to play off each other. And it wasn't so heavily rotated with guys that they shouldn't know how to play, like that they somehow should forget how to play with each other. The only real change was Kostic. The spacing was off. And I think that comes down, I mean, certainly, like I said, we just could talk players, but that comes down from the coach. This is what we're going to do. This is what you need to expect. Do not fall into this trap. I don't know how many times when we tried to press, City would just retreat into their half, create space between the lines because we weren't disciplined, and then find an open player because it was that easy.
Yeah.
So I think the last thing is the actual, and this will be our transition to kind of your topic, Federica, the players. But when I look at the players that were chosen for this match, okay, and I'm going to kind of ignore who was arrested or who wasn't. I'm just going to kind of look at sort of tactical theory as my final sort of demerit against Tutor's planning for this game. Like we said, City was always going to hold the possession, and we would have to hit on the counter. What does that mean for us from a player perspective? We need pacey guys up front that can run into space and relieve pressure. Dusan and Koopmeiners, two of our three attacking guys, are not that player. They're not fast, and they're not known for holding the ball up. First strike. Next, you need players who are comfortable on the ball in tight spaces, dribbling, kind of resistant proof type players. You have McKennie, Locatelli in your midfield. McKennie is not good at close control. That's something we've said about him, and maybe his greatest weakness in his entire game is close control, which is why he's so good out wide, where you can have a little bit more flexibility. You have Locatelli, who's a good passer and a good defender, but is not a really good dribbler. Yet on the bench, you have Thuram, who's physical, big, and a good dribbler, and Douglas Luiz, who I know people are concerned about. But the one, maybe the top quality in his game is his balanced, close control, and resistance proof to then facilitate possession. You have those guys on the bench. You have Kostic, a one-dimensional head down, run down the wing player, extremely one-footed, not necessarily known being good in possession. And then you have Cambiasso on the bench, a pseudo midfielder, inverted fullback who is good at passing and moving. It's just like when you look at the team selection, Yildiz, Conceição, Colomwani they're much pacier and better in possession and counterattacks. Thuram, maybe Locatelli or Thuram, Douglas Luiz, Cambiasso out wide, and not putting a guy in his eighth game with Juventus, Alberto Costa on the right to get absolutely exposed. These almost seem obvious to me, and maybe Tutor screwed himself by the team selection, but it was pretty obvious to me the type of qualities that the players needed to have for this game, and Tutor just did the opposite.
Yeah.
Am I taking crazy pills here, Frederic?
You're not at all. In fact, matter of fact, I mean, we're not on the scoop. This is Turin Giants, but I'm gonna let you in on a little something. I was texting my source yesterday after the game, and we were like in between the transfer things and management things. We also just chat about Juve like every other Juve supporter does. And I asked him. I literally sent him a message saying, "Well, Tudor has shit the bed," and he replied, "Well, if you have a coach, let me check it if I still." If you have a coach that barely finishes a whole season with a team in 13 years of his career, why are you so surprised? It's roughly translated from Italian, but and that made me wonder because we're going in a new season. We're starting all over again for the umpteenth time. Are we on the right path? Is there like, and this is not just Tudor related, let me be very clear, but the choice of a coach dictates your movements in the transfer market, I feel, because every coach has his say within transfers. Let's state the obvious here. But also the fact, do we have a coach that can get 100% out of his players? Because we don't have a lot of quality players. That's the hard truth that we had to discover last year. Now that we've discovered that truth and we can't remedy it because we don't have an oil well under La Continassa to get some funds in, What is our next best opinion? We need a coach that can squeeze out these players like lemons and get their utmost potential out of it. Are we there yet? No, it's too early, of course. Are we gonna get there eventually this season? To me, that's a big question mark, and that
Well,
is something that worries me in all honesty.
Tudor's contract was extended what to 2027, right? Do you, Frederick? Do you remember when Tudor's contract expires?
So Tutor has a contract till June 30th of 2027 with an option to renew for another year. So bilateral option.
A 2027 contract doesn't signal me like that the team is convinced or the management he's convinced he's a long-term option. So he very well may be a stopgap. And I will qualify everything I said. Well, not everything, but some of what I said too. If we then go and beat Real Madrid in the next round, then everyone's going to say he's a genius by resting his starters. So who knows? In the next game, we could be proven wrong. But I think to kind of sign off the Tutor rant, the organization and the team selection for this one was all wrong for me. And that was a warning sign. All right,
Big red flag.
we can sign off on the Tutor talk. Frederic, let's talk about some of the individual player performances and or player quality, because I think this game might have exposed certain players as just not being up to snuff. So where do you want to start?
Well, where can we start? I mean, for me, there was one highlight in the sense that a player that came across as fit, quirky, a bit aggressive, a bit technical, somebody who could make a difference. And for me, that was Kenan, as he was in the other games. And it shames me to say that all the rest was subpar. And there were a few players that were little garbage at times. What was Savona doing? What was Kalulu doing? What was Koopmeiners doing? Those are the three that really irked me during that game. And Kalulu, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He had a good season, had an injury, so it might just be a shape issue. Savona, never my favorite player. Will never be my favorite player. The guy's young, he has potential, so But again, and I'm sorry, Dun, from I really it pains me to say it, but subpar quality all around yet again. And maybe we have to reach a point as management, as a team, that we say, okay, we clearly made a lot of mistakes last season, and there's no remedying that. By letting him play and keep stacking up these performances, it isn't in Juventus's benefit, neither in Koopmeiners' benefit. We know we can't sell him without making a loss, but we have to make a choice. Are we gonna go for the L? Are we gonna sell him, or whatever we can do and recuperate what we can? Or are we gonna keep hoping? Maybe take him to Lourdes, some magical Catholic sighting place, and hope the Virgin Mary appears before him and turns him into the footballer he was. Because it's not a coach issue. I mean, it's safe to state that, I feel.
Yeah, I
And
don't
this
think
goes for
nothing about his performance has shown you that it's simply a matter of tactics. I mean, he seems slow, his touch seems off. He seems always a step behind the phases of play. Even, his outside of the box shooting. I mean, we all remember the one time he shot the ball. It literally is still somewhere in the stratosphere at this very moment. And he kind of looked down at his foot like, what's going on? I mean, not one part of his game is clicking. And that is not, I mean, certainly that's more of a confidence than a coach thing.
Yeah. And the one goes in hand with the other, but overall, and I'm gonna move away from Coop now, we have a lot of other players that are just subpar. I mean, we're not a world-class team. It's gonna take years if we want to become that, to build upon something. But you need to start with a solid foundation. You need to have a quality, in my opinion, a qualitatively good to very good player in each line. You need a top defender, you need a top midfielder, and a world class striker. All the rest you can fiddle with, you can adjust, you can adapt, you can look at it season by season and build upon that. We have literally nothing at this point to build upon.
Well,
For me,
hold on, because you're saying you need to have a good spine. All right,
yeah,
who's our best forward?
it is Kolo for now.
Colomani. Who's our best
And
attacking midfielder?
in my opinion, Chico.
Over Yildiz?
Well, I don't. Yeah, I see
I mean,
Yildiz as a sort of shadow striker. So yeah, I mean, if we're gonna,
regardless of what you say, it proves my point. Who's
yeah,
our best sort of standard center midfielder?
it's for me, it's Turan.
Who's our best defender?
Bremer.
Not one of them started yesterday.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, that's
that's
my point. Not
yeah,
one of them. So
and that's also mine because if you're a coach and you see, well, hey, as a whole, even if we have the players fit, if they're rested, we still lack quality. Let's be honest. Even if we have the whole squad assembled, we're not the kind of team that can make a big splash in the Champions League for now. I think that's my
yeah,
opinion.
no, yeah.
So
I mean, yeah. I agree with
circling
you.
back to that, and you're benching the players that are actually the ones that are of added value to us is sporting suicide. And it doesn't send a good signal to the team because you're playing a World Cup. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm an old guy. I saw a lot of World Cups in my time. You have the same schedule, you have the same players playing every couple of days, trying to reach the final. And it baffles me. I think there was a statement of Tutor somewhere where he's saying, "Yeah, but the guy's tired of blah, 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 blah." I get that, but you're a professional football player and you're playing for a lot of money, which isn't the case in a national team World Cup. So how is it possible that you're tired after 2 games in what was it, 6 days?
8. Well,
Yeah, I
the
mean,
8 games and
yeah,
3 games and 8.
in 3 days. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that you have, your little sort of injuries or your little, but I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's just to me utter like it's just an excuse. And
It's up. Yeah.
the other
It's
thing to me, which tore me apart really, is the fact that we know our issues, or I hope at least Tudor knows the issues of our team and where we stand at this point. But there's no vision or there's no like a sense of moving forward. How are we going to solve these issues? Because we have options. And by options, of course, I mean transfers, which is, um, for instance, at the scoop, we were saying, look, our focus this season lies on the center backs and the forward.
Mhm.
We stated that for all the episodes right now, which to me sounds viable.
I mean,
But where the heck?
those are the clearest. I mean, let's be real. The glaring, the area of weakness on our team. It just, I mean, not only just looking at the City game, but throughout this whole tournament and at the end of the year, is our defense because we had a heavily rotated attack line. With Coop and Dushan are not starters right now. We had a rotated middle line. Okay, Costa, McKenny, Kostic are not starters. But the three that we had in our defense, due to injuries and fitness, I know, but Kelly, Savona, Kalulu, that is our starting defensive line right now.
That is literally the stuff of nightmares.
I
Let's be honest. This is the stuff of nightmares. I mean, I mean, it's if you went back 20 years from this day and you had your time machine, you could tell people that were watching Juventus right now that would be our starting defensive line. I mean, let's be real. And this is something that bothers me because we have our eyes on Leone. We know what the price of Leone is. We
Hmm.
desperately need somebody like Leone, and we're not moving forward. I mean, I can get that, when the team's on a tournament and you have players that are included in a swap deal or a long thing or whatever, that it takes time,
Hmm.
you have the time difference, you have the managers you need to agree with, all those things. I get that. We were interested in Leone from April.
Hmm.
Yeah, the whole change. Kamoli was there. Kamoli gave the go ahead on Leone, and we're still not moving forward. Like, how obvious must our gap be in order for us to haul a bit of ass, get somebody in? Because the more time that we lose, the harder it gets for a certain player to blend into the team.
Yeah, the like currently currently our starting back line, or I shouldn't say currently. I said for this next season, not this tournament. For this next season, our starting back line is Kalulu, Bremer, Gotti, and we have guys like Kelly and Cabal and Savona backing them up. I am afraid that a Kalulu, Bremer, Gotti backline is one super quality player short. I'd love to see Gotti more as a rotational piece. Lloyd Kelly, I know, yeah, on this podcast and among the fan space, there are some defenders of the defender, but I am serious concerns about his ability to defend. Going forward, I think he's fine, but defensively, scary. Cabal only played a couple games for us. Let's keep in mind that he only started the previous season, the second half, after Verona had sold the three players above him. He has not played a lot of Serie A football. He was predominantly a defense first choice in Verona. So I have questions about his ability to go forward. So that's two of our backlines. And Savona is, as you said, young and inexperienced. Like, that currently is our supporting cast. We don't have the depth. Even if we get Leone, we're still probably a bit more established defender short. So that's two players you got to bring in. Now, we've been linked with several center backs. I mean, we've had a ton of them on the scoop. Do you really? But nobody's signing players right now. Do you think we've truly missed out on anybody, Frederic, or is it more so that the entire market is sort of holding its breath until either July 1st or this tournament is complete?
Well, I'm going to clarify it a bit for people that are not in the know, because what happens now is officially the season's over.
Hmm.
When you enter a Club World Cup, however, or an international tournament, your contract gets automatically prolonged. Like, you have a contract, you have your holidays and what have you. But if you're within a team, um, the team still has the right to summon you and get you to play those games, which means that you're basically an employer doing his job for your boss. Let's put it like that. Basically, this also means that if you become injured within that period, within that international tournament, your contract is still valid. And what do I mean by that? I mean by that, like, if you sign a contract right now, and let's just make it very tangible, let's say Gotti should move to Napoli. He signs the contract right now saying that, okay, from the next transfer period on, Gotti is officially a Napoli player. Juventus still have the right to make him play the games that we have left right now. Let's say for some strange reason that Gotti gets injured in that time. Not only is Juventus liable to pay out his remainder of his contract, even though he's injured, he can't play, but Napoli, on their behalf, is also obliged to start paying him from the day that the contract will eventually be triggered, which will be, I don't know what will be, when is the next transfer period? I think August 1st or something, I don't know, or July 25th, I can't remember. So there's a big risk. This is something that has put a bit of a fear in the market situation.
So that's why there's the very little movement in the market.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically
Okay.
every team did their thing before the Club World Cup. Like City spent over 300 million
Yeah.
like in 2 weeks.
Only the teams that could. So your
Yeah,
Liverpool cities, and then
yeah,
everybody else,
yeah,
like the peons like Juventus,
yeah.
that
And
could not.
also, it was made very clear, and that's thing number two. Um, Kamoli stated like the Club World Cup to me is something that I want to see done in order for me to get a good view on what's lacking. And I previously mentioned that in our episode of the Scoop as well. I
Mhm.
think that it's a very intelligent decision not to make rush decisions. However, I feel if you witness a game like the one we did against City, then there must be some sense of urgency management wise, stating like, okay, we really have to act. So for me, the thing that I'm gonna hold Juventus accountable for is that first period of the transfer market.
Yeah.
If we come in, if we come in all guns blazing, and we get all those lacks of depth filled in within a week, then I'll be the first person to open the fridge, get the champagne out. However, if we still are chasing player X, Y, and Z for the remainder of August, without any backup or any other potential signings, then I'm going to start to get a little bit concerned. And I'm getting that eerie feeling right now after that game. So I'm hoping, praying for some sort of big master plan to unfold in the first coming days of the transfer market, because it's clear, and we don't have to be like, I know a lot of people, I got a lot of grief on Reddit for a post. I say that like there were people like, wow, we're a top tier team, we're legendary, we need to do this and that. We are not. We are the Ajax of our era at this point. We are nowhere near what Juventus should be. And we have to be very aware of that. However, we need to climb the ladder and we need to start moving. And we need to start moving fairly quickly because we have Vlahovic holding us hostage with his 12 million a year. We have Coop Miners that, at some point, I don't even know if he can tell us what shape a ball has anymore. We have a central center back um, who we don't know when he will return, who was one of the best players in our squad. So, I mean, we have a lot of issues that need to be solved, and I don't see anything being done at this point to get those things done. So I'm hoping for that rush.
Yeah. We don't need anything done now. The transfer window's not open.
Yeah,
But I do agree with you that once it does open, the behavior of Kamoli will be a signal, either a signal in the I see the issues and I'm being proactive in fixing them, or a signal in that he might be over his head. And we'll find out very soon, based on his actions, frankly, what
yeah,
side of that coin he's on. And if we might plug, right, this would be a great way for you guys to stay tuned, is to tune into Frederic and my series called The Scoop, where we will be specifically and solely looking at those types of matters. So be on the lookout for those. Is
yeah.
there anything else? I mean, we didn't talk too much about the players. I mean, it was pretty shambolic. Is there anything else from a player side that you wanted to note? Maybe talk Di Gregorio, a player that you don't love.
Yep.
Um, he was very active.
He had to be. He didn't have a choice, really.
I mean, is there any player we missed or anybody else you want to highlight um, from yesterday's performance?
Well, in a general sense, I know we brought a lot of our youth team players along, and I kind of felt a bit embarrassed that they didn't weren't given a chance. Because if you're gonna rotate, if you're gonna start the game with fuck it, we lost already, let's just see what we can do. Why not bring those guys in or some of those guys? Like, there's a reason why you brought them with us. Let's just see how they do it like on the main stage. If you're already in that mindset of this game's gone already, get the most out of it for the squad and the team. Because you see gold miners every day in practice. You know what he's lacking, you know what he doesn't or can't or won't do. Why for the love of God still place him in the midst of all that bullshit and just let somebody else get the
I
spot? I mean,
I actually disagree with you. I mean, we saw it with Alberto Costa. He was so completely out of his depth. Now, I think there's a really good player there, but he is
yeah,
not currently at the level of playing City or what he's on the right side. What is he going to do? Man, Mark Vinicius Jr. next round? I mean,
yeah,
the he's not there yet, and I think it was borderline unconscionable for Tutor to put him on the right against Manchester City to get so thoroughly embarrassed
yeah.
over and over and over again
But
that
that
and
was
then, but
my
that leads my
point.
but that leads to my point is for a young player, confidence is important, and putting them in a position like putting some of these other youth players out against City because you're phoning it in, right? That doesn't actually benefit those players. You throw Dushan out there because he doesn't care whether we win or lose because he's getting paid bucket loads of cash. You throw him out there, you throw him to the Wolves. You don't throw the young kids out to the Wolves. That would not have been the right call. And so um, I'm glad he didn't, but I'm kind of annoyed, like because when you look at our bench and you say exactly like I said before, what type of player behavior or activity or their characteristics, that's the word I'm looking for, do you want against City? And you look at the right back position. Costa's not the person you put there. You put McKennie for his physicality, work rate, defensive ability, and on both sides of the ball because you can release him. You put Weah's faster, maybe not as good defensively, but Weah's faster. You put Weah or McKennie on the right wing. They are more experienced. They've played in World Cups. They've played in the Champions League. McKennie and Weah both contributed to goals against Manchester City earlier this year. You put them on the wing, not Alberto Costa. Another wrong move from Tutor, and it's the origin of that. Why I kind of disagree with you on that
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on disagreeing with me too. But on the other hand,
point.
I feel like if you go in as a coach with that, we're phoning it in, tell that to the players as well. If you're gonna, pick a youth player, you're gonna give him the opportunity, relieve that pressure. Just tell him like, hey, it's of no concern here. I just want you to show me what you've got, basically. You will not be held accountable, but I want you to show me. And for every young player, it's a dream to play against the bigger names. And this was, for me, an opportune moment. Not start the whole youth team, of course, but if, like you say, you shouldn't put Costa there, but put somebody else, or at least gold minus, or even with Vlahovic. Like, just try it, even if it's for 20 minutes. Just try it and give him a sense of belonging as well. Because
Maybe at the end of the game, not to start, but like once it's five
yeah,
5-1 or whatever it was what 5-1 and what the 80th minute, give or take. Then,
yeah, yeah,
then it's like, hey, look, y'all go have fun. I don't
yeah,
care. Go have
yeah.
fun.
Just some
It's
playing
over. So
time.
go have fun.
Let him.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
from a starting
No, no, no.
perspective, no, you can't do
No,
that.
no, no. Of course, not from starting perspective. You should have started your best 11. Period. You should have started your best 11.
Yeah.
But as the game progresses, and you see, well, this is a lost battle. Bring those guys in. How cool is it for a 17-year-old player to say, "Look, I went on the Club World Cup with Juventus, and I played against Manchester City. Um, I did some good things against Manchester City. I don't know, whatever." That's something you can cherish. That's something positive those players can build upon. And to circle back to the whole transfer thing, like you said, I hope we're going to be very busy with the scoop, and I hope we'll have like daily scoops even, because it's necessary. I was
Yeah.
talking to another friend of mine. He's also in the journalist side of things, transfer news. He said, "Well, you can be very sure that Juventus will purchase three players, like a very good center back, very good midfielder, and a very good forward." He texted me the day, no, a couple of hours after the game. He said, "I know what I said. I stand by it because those are just the facts. But we need at least 6 to 7 players if we will want to be somewhat competitive." That is a lot of work.
Mhm.
That is a hell of a lot of work to find 6 or 7 compatible, possible world class players in a short
Expensive
time
too.
frame.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think, I mean, and we'll wrap up this episode because we're kind of getting down a rabbit hole here. I think on the player building standpoint, at the end of the season, and I stand by this, is I felt we were a Bremer and starting the season with Colomwani away from legitimately competing for the Scudetto this past season by how the season played out. You know, hindsight 2020 and so forth. I guess based on what you said, 3 players, 6 players, it depends on what your goals are. If your goal is to focus on the league and win the Scudetto, maybe it's 3. If it's your goal to win the Champions League, maybe it's 11. Right? So I think you have to calibrate your expectations with how many players.
Accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that
Of
so
course.
that's just one thing to keep in mind. You know, that might not be clear. Okay, let's sign off on Manchester City. That absolute drubbing. It was, as you probably can tell from Frederick and my conversation, it was not fun for us, and we know it wasn't fun for you. Our boy Farhad was there with his family and got to witness the shellacking live. So that was a bit of a bummer, but it was super cool for him to go see Juventus in person. A lot of y'all actually said hi to him in Orlando, and he just wanted y'all to know how much that meant to him, to meet and to say hello, and to just talk with the friends and followers of this podcast. Obviously, if you follow us on Instagram, you saw the funny content that Farhad did with Uncle Pepe, also a very good long-term friend of this podcast. So please, if you haven't followed us or if you don't engage with us on Instagram, please do so at Turin Giants. Then what's next is the elimination rounds. As we've already said, we have Real Madrid in the first elimination round. That game will be on Tuesday, July 1st. Um, and we'll probably break that down closer. And we don't really have time to do that today, but I think we all know we're kind of up against it. If we somehow manage to come through that game, the likely journey to the finals would go through Dortmund, and then the winner of PSG Bayern, assuming they win their respective matches. So it's going to be
Yeah.
an extremely tough road. Got to focus on the first one. At least our stars are rested, so they'll be available against Real Madrid, and we will do our best to provide you with all of good conversation and content surrounding that game here at Turin Giants. Frederic, have I missed anything? Did we cover everything? Are we good?
We are very good, I think. You did a bang up job, man.
well, thank you. I think you did all right yourself. And with that, everybody, thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you, all of you. And until next time, as always, Forza Juve.